Today is Veterans Day, a holiday originally commemorating the armistice which ended the fighting in World War I. It later became a day to honor American veterans of all wars. There are 74,000 veterans in South Dakota, veterans who have served in World War II, Korea, Vietnam, the Gulf War, and the current conflicts in Iraq and Afghanistan. I'm Kara Hetland, SDPB News Director. Tonight we'll hear from a handful of those vets in stories and interviews that have aired on SDPB Radio over the last year. The role of women serving in the military has expanded dramatically in recent years, but there was a time when women in uniform served their country primarily by sitting at a desk typing or filing. One exception is the Women Air Force Service Pilots, or WASPs, of World War II. In August, SDPB's Jim Kent visited with Millie Rexrodt, who helped pioneer new horizons for women, both in the military and beyond.
The United States of America was suddenly and deliberately attacked by naval and air forces of the Empire of Japan.
It's 1942. War was declared on Japan and Germany. Millions of men are in the armed forces heading to Africa or the Pacific to fight the enemy. Thousands want to do something significant to help the war effort, just like those men. But there's just one problem. They're women.
I had some skills that I was pretty good at, but that consisted of typing and shorthand and other office procedures.
Ola Millie Rexrodt is in Oglala, Lakota. She worked at the Army War College in Washington, D.C. at the start of the Second World War. Like millions of other women, Millie had a desire to serve her country, but was limited by her gender in what she was permitted to do. Still, with the military in need of all the help it could get, positions were available for women in all the armed forces. So, Millie began weighing her choices.
And I thought, should I join the WAC, which was the Women's Army Corps? And I didn't really want to do that. Should I join the Navy? And I didn't know enough about that, and I didn't really want to do that. And I thought about the Marines, which I did think I would like, and I sent them a telegram.
The Marine Corps isn't used to getting job inquiries by telegram and failed to answer Millie's inquiry to her satisfaction. This forced Millie to look elsewhere for a way to serve her country.
I thought, if I had some background of doing something, maybe I could do something that really made a difference. And that's how I happened to think about it. See, I didn't even know how to drive a car. And I thought, if I could do something like fly.
Millie found she could take flying lessons at a nearby airport for $8 an hour, a lot of money in those days. Once she accumulated 35 hours of flight time, she'd be able to apply to be a WASP, Women Air Force Service Pilot, with the Army Air Force.
Straighten up and fly right.
It took a while, but Millie learned to fly, gained the required flight time, and was accepted into the WASPs. Her two sisters were thrilled.
But my mother was totally against it. Even though I told her I was not going to really be in combat, she said nevertheless that it was training other people to kill other people, and that's why she objected to it, other than the fact that it was dangerous.
After 8 long months, Millie graduated training. She was stationed at Eagle Pass, Texas in September 1944.
My mission was to tow targets for aerial gunnery, and that was mainly what I did. I did a few ferry trips.
A ferry trip is the term for flying military personnel, usually officers, from one location to another. Some of the WASPs also worked as flight inspectors for repaired planes. Millie loved her job, the opportunity to fly, and the camaraderie of the other female pilots. But Millie's dream to serve her country was short-lived. The WASP program was disbanded in December 1944, just 3 months into Millie's flying career.
We were devastated, I think all of us, because we were enjoying flying. No matter what kind of duty we had, we liked it.
Some of the women were able to continue flying after the war, but most went into other fields of work. Millie became one of the first female air traffic controllers for the Federal Aviation Administration, a job she stayed with until she retired. Only 1,074 women earned WASP wings. 38 died in the line of duty. Although they served their country during the war, WASPs weren't given the same benefits or rank as their male counterparts until 1977. On July 1st of this year, President Obama awarded each WASP the Congressional Gold Medal. Millie says she's glad the WASPs were able to prove to the U.S. military that a woman can, in fact, fly a plane. For South Dakota Public Broadcasting, I'm Jim Kent.
Come fly with me.
You can hear more of Millie Rexroth's story, plus stories, interviews, and pictures from other South Dakota World War II veterans on our website. Go to sdpb.org, click on Dakota Stories, and then Homefront. We continue with World War II and learn about a program called Honor Flight. This is a recent effort to honor World War II veterans by taking them to their memorial in Washington, D.C., at no cost to the selfless men and women who served our nation. The first South Dakota Honor Flight took place in May, and several veterans who were part of that flight shared their stories with us. Steve Zwemke brought us this report.
Yesterday, December 7th, 1941, a date which will live in infamy.
At this place, at this memorial, we acknowledge a debt of long standing to an entire generation of Americans. Those who died, those who fought and worked and grieved and went on. They saved our country and thereby saved the liberty of mankind.
To a 17-year-old, oh, this is a big deal, you know. See, I enlisted when I was a senior, but they let us graduate, and then we went right in April. But, you know, it was just like going to a celebration or something, you know. Young kids, they didn't know any better.
I was in the infantry. I was in the Normandy and that nose, all the way through there. I was wounded once, so I went back to the hospital and I went right back to my old outfit again.
One strafing run, 8 of us went in and they killed 4 of us.
World War II veterans have thousands of stories like this. Earl Morse wants to send these brave soldiers on one more mission, to see their memorial in Washington, D.C. Morse started the Honor Flight program in May of 2006 in Springfield, Ohio. Morse is a physician assistant, pilot, and retired Air Force captain. He wanted to help his patients, who are veterans, get to Washington. Then 6 small planes carried 12 veterans from Ohio to Washington, D.C., and Honor Flight was born. Word travels all the way to South Dakota. On May 1st of this year, 122 South Dakota veterans left Sioux Falls on the first Honor Flight South Dakota. Veterans react to seeing the memorial for the first time.
I got so emotional, I walked up there and I broke down and cried. It just got to me because I thought of all of my friends, you know, that didn't make it.
That's really something that they're finally recognizing all this stuff, because a lot of these people, you know, wouldn't be here today if it wasn't all them battles, you know. If we'd happened to get beat, we'd be speaking German or Japanese or something. That's what I feel about it.
Veterans aren't the only ones moved by the memorial. Honor Flight founder Earl Morse discusses how he feels at the memorial with a South Dakota veteran.
It's very moving because most World War II veterans, they come here, they want to see how this nation's going to recognize their accomplishment. And then reason number 2 is you all want to see how your friends are going to be remembered. Your buddies that never made it home. Now you know. We get to witness this time and time and time again. It's such a privilege to get you to your memorial.
I never thought I was going to get here.
The trip also touched Larry Rohrer, who is one of the organizers of Honor Flight South Dakota.
For me, my dad was in the 8th Air Force. He was a waist gunner on a B-17 over Europe, flew 45 missions, 44, 45, the numbers went up. Flew cover for D-Day, flew the firebombing at Dresden and other places. He never lived to see it. He died 15 years ago. For me personally, I was there with him.
There are nearly 8,000 World War II veterans in the state of South Dakota. Over 700 of them applied to be on the first flight. 122 were taken, leaving nearly 600 waiting. Rohrer says time is running out to give these veterans a chance to see the memorial built in their honor. Based on recent statistics, we are losing World War II veterans at the national rate of approximately 1,000 per day. Rohrer says that there are a number of opportunities in which the public can get involved.
Number one is to make a donation, either in honor of the program or maybe of someone, a relative or someone in your family who participated in World War II. The other is if there are fundraising activities or organizational activities for the project in your community, volunteer.
Rohrer says honor flights in South Dakota will continue as long as there are veterans who want to go and money to pay for the flights. He says there are plans for 3 or 4 more trips still this year. For SDPB Radio, I'm Steve Zwemke.
SDPB visited with 3 South Dakota veterans who were aboard the first honor flight originating from South Dakota. Gene Weidenbach of Scotland, Claude Hone of Sioux Falls, and Mark Brewer of Howard. 3 honor flights have taken place this year. The 4th honor flight is this Friday. After this weekend, 450 South Dakota World War II vets have been on honor flights, with more than 500 on the waiting list. Flights will resume next April. For more information, go to honorflightsd.org. For some veterans, returning home from war is a battle of a different kind, and how they're received by their families and communities makes a difference. Most people support our servicemen and women, even if they don't agree with the military mission or the politics surrounding war, and welcome home celebrations have become common for men and women returning from war. But it hasn't always been this way, particularly with veterans of the Korean and Vietnam Wars. Earlier this year, SDPB's Jim Kent visited a welcome home ceremony for a South Dakota Vietnam veteran, 40 years after the fact, to see if it's ever too late to say thank you.
For servicemen and women, there's nothing like hearing a military band and cheering crowds celebrating your return home from battle. That's what happened at the end of World Wars I and II. It's also happened on a smaller scale for local military units returning from Afghanistan and Iraq. But troops who served in Vietnam came home to a different sound.
A companion peace demonstration brings out 50,000 marchers in downtown San Francisco, where anti-war songs and speeches...
No marching bands, no cheering crowds, just lots of protesters, many of them violent.
Vietnam, put down your books and pick up a gun. We're gonna have a whole lot of fun, and it's one.
When I got out of Vietnam, I went to California. That same day I got out of my jungle fatigues and got in my uniform, I went out the back way. I had a taxi guy take me to the airport, but I went out the back way because they had protesters waiting for soldiers like me to get off the plane to throw eggs at, call baby colors and everything. I seen all that, so I went out the back way.
That's Winfred Jackson, Doc to friends and family. As a U.S. Army medic, Doc served in Vietnam from 1968 to 69. He saved lives. He also held men in his arms as they died. Wounded in combat himself, Doc received the Purple Heart, along with the Silver Star, the Bronze Star, and a host of other medals. But the memories of what he saw in those Southeast Asian jungles remained with him when he returned home, and even after he left the Army in 1980.
He has talked quite often about how hurt he was when he came home from Vietnam the first time.
Doc's wife, Vonnie, says like many other combat veterans, her husband suffers from post-traumatic stress disorder that has affected his emotional and physical health. The negativity he encountered upon his return from Vietnam only deepened the war's scars. As a way to help her husband heal, Vonnie and local disabled American Veterans Post Commander Earl Jefferson urged Doc to return to Vietnam. The Veterans of Foreign Wars sponsors trips for Purple Heart recipients.
Because a lot of veterans that was in Vietnam, they carried this baggage with them, where they had to come home and suffer through a lot of different stuff. But by going back, they're able to cleanse and be better about themselves.
Vonnie Jackson decided to stage a welcome home for Doc to make up for what he and other Vietnam vets didn't receive the first time around. And Jefferson jumped at the opportunity to help. So did members of local veterans organizations, the Patriot Guard Motorcycle Group, and the Cub Scouts.
My name is Jonathan and I'm 10.
Okay, and what are you doing here tonight?
I am waiting for a military person to arrive to welcome him back.
Here he comes. Hey, Doc!
About 60 well-wishers escort Doc from Rapid City Regional Airport to a dinner honoring Jackson and all Vietnam veterans. After a few words from the guest of honor,
we were soldiers. We were young soldiers. And as we all, went back to our place where we got wounded, it was sort of like a private thing for all of us.
Everyone chows down, while Doc takes time to reflect on his healing journey to Vietnam.
There were Vietnamese people, there were even Viet Cong people we fought was there to greet us, because we all had a chance to talk to the Viet Cong, or a guy who was representing the Viet Cong at the time. And they had, even though they were communists and even though we were fighting each other, when we got together around the table, we were like, brothers, We all talked about our experiences that we had when we were much younger, at 19. I looked at that like, where else can you get this kind of experience where you go back and talk to your enemy and your enemy can relate to what you're talking about because you were in the same area. I don't know, I guess I'm fortunate that happened in my lifetime, that I had a chance to do that, to see Vietnam in a different light.
Doc Jackson says part of the reason he returned to Vietnam was for all those who never came home. He hopes that any of their mothers who hear his words will feel that their sons are now resting in peace, as Doc finds peace from his own memories of Vietnam.
Welcome home, Doc.
Thanks, man.
Welcome home, Doc.
Thanks.
For South Dakota Public Broadcasting, I'm Jim King.
Welcome back, Doc. God bless you.
You can hear interviews with other South Dakota Vietnam War veterans on our website, sdpb.org. Click on Dakota Stories and then War Stories. We move from hearing about a belated welcome home ceremony to a soldier preparing to leave home for war. The current wars in Iraq and Afghanistan rely heavily on National Guard troops, those weekend warriors who have civilian lives and jobs. There are 480 South Dakota National Guard troops currently deployed and 360 pending deployment. One of those waiting for deployment is Brian Dreyer from Rapid City. Dreyer is a captain in the South Dakota National Guard 196th Mobile Enhancement Brigade. He's also a Republican state representative who has resigned from the legislature because of his pending deployment to Afghanistan. Dreyer was recently a guest on SDPB Radio's Dakota Midday with host Paul Guggenheimer.
Well, anytime you put on the uniform, I think it's something you expect, and with the changing dynamics in Afghanistan and Iraq right now, you know years in advance when a unit's going to be activated. You usually know about a year out. The 196, I just joined that unit about a month ago, and they called down and asked me if I'd be willing to go just because of my specialization with my skill set, and talked over with my wife and decided it'd be a good time.
Your specialization. Tell us about that.
Well, I've got a background, a little bit of a different background. I started out when I graduated high school. I enlisted in the Army to pay for college as an infantryman in the Army, and then got a ROTC scholarship to the University of Oklahoma, where I got my commission in the Air Force. And I was fortunate enough to be picked up for pilot training there, and went on to fly F-16 fighters for them. And then when my wife and I decided to start having children, and decided that Rapid City was a good place to raise them. She's an Oklahoma gal, so I brought her up to the cold climate, and she's survived well. We moved to western South Dakota. Western South Dakota is very Army dominant as far as the Guard goes. East River, Sioux Falls, that area is very air heavy with the F-16s out there. So, with a 5-hour commute and being in western South Dakota, I switched back over to the Army, and that's where I've been since.
You mentioned that. How many children do you have?
We have 3. I got one that just turned 6, October 25th. I got a 4-year-old and a 2-year-old. And
you mentioned that you talked this over with your wife, and you felt, well, this would be a good time to do this. But I would imagine this is going to be hard on the family and difficult for you to be away from them even for only a year.
It will. One of the things that I think it's almost easier on the servicemen. When we're over in those areas, we have a lot of control over what's going on around us. We know what's going on around us. It's a daily thing. You get in the mindset of just being in a hostile area, and it's something that you cope with very well because they train us for it. The things that are hard to deal with are the things that are out of your control. The everyday mundane things such as pipes breaking in the house, or problems with the electrical, or the trash man not coming, or tire rotation, things of that sort. Because that's you just have so little control over that, and
right.
you're relying so much on your spouse to do that. And my wife's great. She's a member of the Guard as well. She comes from a military family. Her dad's a 3-star general in the air side. Her brother's in, so she understands. She does very well. Yeah.
You have been deployed overseas before, but this is the first time that you will be going into a hostile environment. What sorts of thoughts do you have about this particular assignment that you have?
One of the reasons that I feel good about this deployment is we've got a very, very solid leadership group. We've got great leaders going over, great soldiers. The group from South Dakota will be embedded with a larger group of active duty soldiers, obviously, which is what it some of the changes that have occurred when the changing environments in Afghanistan is the Guard has become so ingrained into the active duty, so we can flow fairly seamlessly into an active duty unit because of equipment. The equipment's very similar. We're fielding the same equipment as the active duty components. We're going through the same training, and a lot of our soldiers are guys that came off active duty, guys and gals that came off active duty. So it's a fairly seamless process when you embed into the active duty.
Describe the role that you will undertake as a leader, in some cases leading 18-year-olds into battle.
They're going to look to us, their senior NCOs, their officers, and expect us to know the answers and put them in the right place at the right time and take care of them. And that's our job, is to bring them back home safely in one piece. And families put their confidence in us to get them home safely, and we just do everything we can to get that done. Thank you to everybody out there who's there's a lot of us going over, and everybody out there supporting the South Dakota Guard and the guys going over. It's very much appreciated, and people notice it. So thank you very much.
Captain Brian Dreyer speaking with SDPB's Dakota Midday host Paul Guggenheimer. Dreyer will serve a year in Afghanistan beginning next spring. You can hear more of that interview on our website. Go to sdpb.org and click on Dakota Midday. You can also see a video diary and photos, as well as listen to audio interviews from other South Dakotans currently serving in the current conflicts. On our website, click on Active Duty. It's been 92 years since the fighting of World War I ended. It was supposed to be the war to end all wars, but yet we're still a country at war. And on this Veterans Day, we thank the 74,000 men and women of South Dakota who are honored today, and the tens of thousands more who served and are no longer with us. For SDPB Radio, I'm Kara Hetland.
All we've been given by those who came before, the dream of a nation where freedom would endure, the working prayers of centuries have brought us to this day. What shall be our legacy? What will our children say? Let them say of me, I was one in sharing the blessings I received. Let me know in my heart when my days are through.